Well, welcome everyone. This is a lot more people than I was expecting. So no pressure, right? So by raising hands, who here has never done anything in Rust? Like you've never done it. Okay, that is more people than I expected. That's great. Awesome. Thanks for coming. Glad you're here. Hopefully you get something out of this. Who's like done like a little bit in Rust, but like very beginner-ish you would consider? Okay, so kind of similar amount. Okay, great. And then who's done like enough to consider himself competent, but maybe not advanced? That would be me. Okay, and then who's like, I've done a lot of Rust, maybe I do Rust for a day job. Enough that I answer questions. Okay, intermediate / professional. Okay, great, cool. Okay, that's awesome. So we kind of got the gambit here. If you've done a lot in Rust, this will probably won't be anything new. Hopefully it's still engaging and entertaining. If you're new to Rust, I hope that this will tell you a little bit about what it is, about why you should care, and maybe some of the reasons why you might want to use it in the future. So just as an overview, we're gonna start with that, what it is, why you would want to use it, and then I'll show you some code. I don't know about you, but for me, it helps to like see something. If I just hear words all day long, it won't stick. So we're gonna see some code so we have a picture in our minds. We're again gonna compare it to some other languages. Mostly what that means in my book, I'm just gonna kind of compare it in broad strokes to manual memory management languages. Think C, C++, maybe Swift. I've never done Swift. And then versus like garbage collected languages. And those are kind of the two categories in my mind, even though I know there's a lot more things to break it up. And then we'll have a couple things where like, all right, well, you want to use Rust. How do you get started? And then if we have enough time, I don't know how long we're going to go. We may not get to all this. Ownership is the central concept to Rust that makes it different than any other programming language. So if we have the time, I think it would be great to kind of like cover a little bit about what that means and what it gets you. Just because it's a very different thing, and you have to think differently when you're programming in Rust than in pretty much any other language. So I feel like the sooner you start thinking about ownership, the better. Well, then there are some resources that help you learn Rust. So cool, background. What is Rust? All right, well, Rust is a systems programming language. When I think system, I just think basically, can you write like a device driver? Can you write an operating system in Rust? And if the answer is yes, then you're a systems programming language. So Rust is that. It is statically typed. So the types are known at compile time, not JavaScript, Python, Ruby. It is strongly typed, meaning that types aren't going to like change on you randomly. Think like JavaScript where you add 2 plus the string 3 and you get the string 23. Right, that doesn't happen in Rust. And it is also implicitly typed. I think this is great because I do Java for a day job, and although there's a lot of great things about Java, especially the new things if you've seen those, it can be really annoying when you're like, my fancy factory bot equals new my fancy factory bot, right? It's just very, very verbose. Implicit typing really helps.
My fancy factory bot?
Yes, yeah, dot, create, dot, yeah, exactly. Angle brackets for my fancy type, yeah, exactly.
You might be forgetting one.
Yeah, so, great. Okay, so why would you use Rust over any other language? Because there's a lot of languages out there, a lot of really great languages out there. Well, one, performance. Rust is really, really fast. When they do it in benchmarks, it's always right there with C and C++, pretty much every single time. It outperforms pretty much every other language in almost every category. I did hear there was one thing that Java beat it in, which was kind of random. Why is it fast? Well, there's no runtime, so there's no like Java virtual machine, Python bytecode interpretation, anything like that. And there's no garbage collection. It doesn't have to spend time figuring out where your memory is because it knows. It has a lot of zero cost abstractions. So this is kind of getting ahead, but one of the reasons why I like it over C and C++ is that I'm kind of used to all these like nice things in other languages. Things like iterators and closures and functional programming kind of stuff, right? All these kind of things that you kind of miss when you go back to C and C++. Rust can give you almost all of those things, but with zero cost, meaning that it doesn't slow down your program or require more memory. So there are other languages that can provide it with a lot of extra cost. Rust gives you at zero cost. That's cool. And it just makes amazing optimizations for free without you even trying. Like you can write code that looks like it shouldn't be fast, and the Rust compiler will figure out how to make it fast. Not always, but it can in some situations, which is cool. Rust is also very reliable because for one, of all the like static typing and a lot of the abstractions, a lot of the static typing stuff helps you avoid things like method not defined on nil, method not found on undefined, all those null pointer exceptions, all those things don't happen in Rust. That's cool. And the concept of ownership, that is the big thing, actually helps you prevent a ton of kinds of problems. This means like race conditions cannot happen because the compiler will not accept your code if you can have a race condition, which sounds like blasphemy. It sounds like that's like not allowed to happen, and yet it can happen with Rust, which I think is amazing. And thread safety is basically the same thing. And also, the great thing is you can get all these great benefits without taking a huge hit in being productive. I'm not going to claim that you're going to write your first program in Rust as fast as you will in like JavaScript or Python. And honestly, every time you start a new Rust project, it'll probably be a little bit slower at the beginning. But I view that as an investment because at the end of a project's lifecycle, when you're like finally getting rid of all the bugs that you need to get rid of, I strongly believe that you will probably spend less time writing that program in Rust than you would in JavaScript or Python or something, just because there's so many situations that are so hard to predict in those kind of languages, and Rust shows you them at the beginning. So, yeah, and also it has some of the best error messages I've ever seen. Compare that to if you've ever done C++ and you've ever messed up something with like templates and generics, and you've gotten like 17 screenfuls of error messages. It's not great. Rust has some of the best ones.
Supposedly that will go away with concepts.
Really?
C++ 20.
Cool.
Oh yes, of course.
Now
Supposedly.
Well,
all the legacy
I will
languages just need to implement it.
I will love to see it.
I would.
Cool. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.